It's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and decentralized finance here on Investors Hub Market Vision. Hi, I'm Andrew with Investors Hub, and today we're talking with ADVFN and Investors Hub CEO Clem Chambers about what's going on in the cryptocurrency universe. Without further delay, let's hear from Clem. So, what is the latest and greatest that's going on in the DeFi world?
Well, what I'm about to say will probably be out of date in 3 days because there's so much going on, so much new stuff happening, so much revolution that, yesterday's news is almost out of date. So, the big thing going on right now isn't exactly DeFi because it's Bitcoin going through 20,000. And Bitcoin going through 20,000 probably means it's going to go straight through the 20s, up to the top 20s, maybe into the 30s, almost immediately. So that is the big news. And underneath Bitcoin is Ethereum. Ethereum is number 2. It's the queen of crypto. And DeFi hangs off that. So that is where DeFi lies as part of the Ethereum world. And DeFi uses Ethereum's computer that's built into Ethereum and uses things called smart contracts, which are basically programs. So Ethereum is like Bitcoin, but with a computer plugged in. Now, if you imagine that most finance, banks, stock exchanges, insurance companies, pension funds, you name it, anything to do with money really, those businesses are computers plus people. Well, DeFi are those businesses without the people because the computer's doing it all, and these smart contracts really take over the role of all those people and all those buildings and all those cups of coffees and all those secretaries and all those CEOs earning millions. So once you've taken out all that expense, all those buildings, all those people, all those wages, all those bonuses, there's a lot of money to go around. So imagine a stock exchange, and you take away all their overheads, and you take away all the money that investment banks are making, and you take away all the money that the market makers are making, and you take all the money away that the brokers are making, even ones that don't actually charge you anymore. And you then hand it out to the user base and let them get the benefit of what those fees would be in a normal stock exchange. You can see that A, the user base can make a lot of money, and B, those new systems are worth a huge amount of money because they break all the rules and they go to the next level. And that's what DeFi is. So if you can imagine Star Trek and banks, you've got DeFi. And that's really just breaking open now. This year is really the first year of this. And when you dig into it, you find something, go, well, that's amazing. And you dig into something, oh, that's amazing as well. Oh, and there's another company taking the 2 amazing things those 2 DeFi companies are making and doing something amazing with that as well. And I keep making money at this, and they keep giving me money, and there's money everywhere. Well, that seems really weird. It seems uncanny. It seems unnatural. It seems it can't be possible. But when you take out all those office blocks and all those, $100 million salaries for CEOs and all those bonuses and all those buildings and all those fines from the SEC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you can see that rather than pay you 1% on your money, they could in fact pay you 9%. Yeah, because all that's going in their profits and in their overheads. Well, a DeFi lending platform doesn't have any of that. None of that at all. And anybody can use it. And there's no AML. And there's no KYC. And it's instant and immediate. And you can actually check up on them because you can actually see on the blockchain exactly what's going on if you're clever enough to do so. So it's totally transparent. And, it's a intersection of new technology. Suddenly, you can write a computer program, very much like the bank has. When you log in and you say, oh, please move money from here to here, it's just a computer. The hard disk goes bzzz, and some electrons go bang, and some lasers go zap, and suddenly your money's not in your account anymore, it's in someone else's, right? Well, if you could get rid of all the Muppets involved in telling you have to hang on the line for the next 6 minutes and please send me your passport photograph. And, oh, by the way, I'm earning, 100 million as a CEO telling all these people what to do, and make sure that you've got all that KYC, and I can go speak to the politicians to make sure they don't get annoyed with us. Once you remove those, because it's just you, the software, the internet, Ethereum, and somebody at the other end, well, there's a lot of money to be had. There's a lot of efficiencies to be made. And there's fortunes to be made, and fortunes are being made now. But this is just the beginning. This is just like 1975, 1978 in computing. And the Microsofts and the Apples are emerging now. And many of the companies, many of these programs, many of these smart contracts, many of these sites will disappear. They will vanish. They will get messed up. They will be hacked. They will do stupid things, and they will go away. But the winners that are probably here now, or at least half of them here now, in 20 years, they won't be worth $100 million in market cap for the tokens. They'll be worth 50 billion or 100 billion. So the game is to make money in the short term, to use the DeFi projects. For example, I can take my dollars. I can turn them into a crypto dollar, which is called a stable coin, USDC, for example, which is well backed by venture capital. I can give the interwebs one of my dollars, and they'll give me one of these USDCs that will always be a dollar. And I can deposit that. I can get 4%. 4%. Try getting that from your bank. And it's not I have to lock it up for 3 years. I just stick it in one of these platforms, and I get 4%. And then I pull it out, and I've got my money back. And I can sell it back for fiat, and I can send it to my bank. Well, the difference between getting 4% and 1% on a million, 30,000 a year. That's 2,500 a month. Yeah, and there's a lot of people who have got lots of money and cannot get any yield. Well, actually, what I can do is I can go onto the site and I can borrow somebody's stable coin, and I can send that to my bank, and I can buy a Lambo with that, as long as I've got Bitcoin or Ethereum or some other token. So now the whole banking financial system of old is now plugged into these solely decentralized computer systems that have zero to no overhead. So I can say to my bank, well, stop giving me 0.5% and paying yourself all that money. Give me my money. And I can put it onto the internet. I can put it into a token that's a stable coin. I can put it into Ethereum. I can lodge Ethereum with somebody, and they'll pay me, I think, 4.5% is what I'm getting on my Ethereum. And this is a company backed by $200 million of venture money. So there's no real risk of you losing that. I'm getting 4.5%, not 0.5%. And then someone can come along and borrow that using another crypto as security, over collateralized. So I'm not at risk, and go and do something else with it. And then there's exchanges, there's token swapping sites. So for example, I can go, well, if I go to the stock market and I sell my Microsoft, there's a bid offer spread, and the market maker's taking that. So every time I put my $100,000 on Microsoft, he gets his little blade out and goes, thank you very much. There's $100 I've got there. You don't even know it's gone. But anyway, I sliced it off. That's called a market maker. And crypto, there are systems now where you can be the market maker. All you do is you take two coins, say Ethereum and USDC, you put them in a pool. And when somebody wants to swap between the two, again, no people involved, you get 0.03% of that paid to you. Magic. So you can be the market maker rather than the Citadel of this world or a load of high-tech predators who are out there skimming you. You can actually be the market maker in a totally known, totally transparent system and get that cut. Well, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what's going on here. You can be the insurance company for somebody's insurance, so you can get the premiums. And on and on and on and on and on. So what has happened this year is that whole technological puzzle that is normally hard to put together to make a product that's going to change the world. You think computers, the first computer came out in the early 50s, right? Well, I mean, it took 25 years for people to be able to really use them properly and to actually get the potential of the computer to actually do meaningful stuff. And then after the 70s, it took another 20 years before everybody was doing it, and there was massive productivity jumps. Well, with crypto, it's taken 10 years for it suddenly to break out of its little niche and start to do things that are mainstream and valuable and revolutionary. And DeFi really is the first thing. Yes, Bitcoin's great because it's digital gold and has all the wonderful abilities that make gold a little bit not perfect. Bitcoin is a little bit better than gold, and that's why it's taken its place as an important asset. But DeFi is going to utterly change the financial system from top to bottom. Now, whether that means Ethereum goes to $1 zillion a coin, or whether it just means that lots of these projects will become highly valuable, and maybe, they don't necessarily need to do it on Ethereum, and they'd be using other blockchains. Who knows about that? But when you see when I see anyway, a fantastic little project run by some brilliant engineers, people doing this stuff, they're incredibly young. I mean, I get the feeling that some of them might be living with mum and might be like 15, but they are absolutely brilliant engineers turning out some incredible code. I've not seen the like of the innovation since the early 80s. And they're not just writing fantastic computer games or a spreadsheet. They are rewriting the way that finance works, and it's only just started. So this is going to be an absolute revolution, and there's going to be untold fortunes to be made here. And so I'm totally excited. And on top of that, I'm not just talking about it. I'm getting involved, and everything I touch, I'm making money. And that's, for me, that's why I love crypto. Because if someone says, EVs, batteries, they're going to change the world. Electric cars are going to change the world. Well, when I look at it and I poke it, I don't necessarily make money. But every time I poke anything in blockchain, I make money. And that tells me there's just so much gold in the river that even if you go wading around it, you're going to get nuggets in your boots. And that's the sign of just how much wealth there is out there. I'll tell you a funny story. There was this coin which I bought because it looked like it was going to go up. I didn't really want to buy it, but I bought it and it didn't go up. But when I actually turned it back into Bitcoin, I got the same amount of Bitcoin in Ethereum that I spent on it in the first place. Even though I got it completely wrong, I didn't lose any money. In equities, I would have lost my shirt. Yeah. And then when I do it right, I make a pile of money. Well, I mean, that's telling me that the tide is coming in real fast and real strong. And when the tide comes in like that, you really got to be taking advantage of it. So that's the area I'm in, and that's what I'm focusing on. Actually, right now, it is such a niche. It's because it's so difficult to wrap your head around it. So the bulk of people are being kept out. And another thing, if you go into equities, and let's just say that bird poop fertilizer is the mania of the month. Okay, there'll be Guano PLC, and there'll be Guano Inc., and there'll be Brazilian Guano, and there'll be Mexican Guano, the Canadian Guano, and there'll be 200 companies will appear out of nowhere, all telling you they're the kings of guano, and they know all about guano. They've got mountains of guano, and most of them haven't got a clue. They don't even know what guano is, and they haven't got any mountains of it. They are just promoting a stock. Yeah, and anybody can roll up a company, and anybody that's slightly connected can roll up a listed company pretty much, and they can go around saying, we got the best guano. Our guano is twice as fertile as other people's guano, and you know the story, right? Well, I tell you, if you're a con man, you cannot launch a DeFi project that works. You cannot have something that you can go and you can do stuff with, because con men can't write code that difficult, and it is incredibly difficult. So at the moment, for now at least, what you see is what you get. When you see a DeFi project that works and that you can pump your ETH into and it does its stuff, you know that these are real people. And that is also quite exciting.
So do you think the utility of digital contracts built into, say, Ethereum will allow it to overtake Bitcoin in market value?
Well, I think that's a apples and pears discussion. It's like saying, do you think a Microsoft bond would become more valuable than a Microsoft stock certificate? It might, but it's kind of not really that important. What's important is Bitcoin going to go up? And it is. How far is it going to go up? I'm modest. I think 40,000 will start making me sweat on my pile of Bitcoin. People are saying 100,000, and that could happen quite easily. 250,000 is getting pretty steep. So, Bitcoin's got a fairly large amount of place to go. Double or triple, I think, easily. Ethereum, interestingly, I think it could go a lot further, because I think it could go $4,000 or $5,000. It would certainly easily go $1,000. And I actually, because I wanted to try it out, I actually borrowed money on a DeFi platform because I wanted to actually experience doing that, because nothing like doing it. So I put a load of tokens in Aave, which is a lending borrowing site. So if you put a token in Aave, you'll get interest. And if you lodge tokens with Aave, it will give you a lending facility if you want it. You don't have to. You can just earn interest. But if you did want to borrow, you could borrow coins and tokens. No AML, no KYC, no messing about. Clickety click click, done. And the other platform is called Compound, and they do exactly the same thing. So I thought, right, I'm going to stick a ton of collateral. In this case, Ethereum, I think Maker, some DAI, some various other bits and bobs. And I stuck a load in, and I borrowed 15 grand in USDC, which is a stable coin. And I took that, and I turned that into Ethereum, and I just turned it into Ethereum because Ethereum's going to go up. And I did that at about 450. It's now 600. And when it gets to 750, I'm going to sell that Ethereum back into USDC, which is a stable coin, so it can't go up. Yeah. So I put it into a token that can't go up, can't go down. And I bought Ethereum, which will have gone up, I don't know, 50%. And I was sold it and then paid off the dollars and, made a bit of money. Well, 50% on 8 grand, 4 grand, better than a post in the eye, nice bottle of wine. And that's the kind of thing that DeFi does. But it's all driven by Ethereum. So if you want to, muck about like that, it's going to drive Ethereum, because to do all the transactions costs Ethereum, and that's the Ethereum ecosystem. And for all this DeFi stuff to get onto lesser known tokens, if I was a coder, I'd go, well, everyone knows Ethereum. Why would I want to get onto, the Clem chain and do it there? I've got to recode it for Clem chain? No, I can't be bothered. Everybody knows Ethereum. I'm going to stick around there. So Ethereum has got the brand, and it's unlikely many people will want to switch off their fantastic projects on Ethereum, which has got code that works, code that hasn't actually been hacked, which is an important part of all this DeFi, is that every criminal in the world is, rattling your windows to try to get in and steal all your gold. It's a bit like the old Wild West days. So, if you write a DeFi platform and it hasn't been robbed for 6 months, your site is seasoned, and that's a good thing. So if you then port it over to some other code base, you never know, do you? There might be some flaw. That's a risk. So I think that Ethereum's got a pretty strong lock-in. Now, it might not go to $30,000 in Ethereum, particularly as they've now gone proof of stake, but it can certainly go up a lot from where it is now. It can go up, a lot. You could easily go 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, because, Bitcoin is going to hit $1 trillion in market cap. Gold is 7 trillion. And people say, well, it can easily match gold. And it could easily match gold. I think that I won't be sticking around for that. Because, I know it'll just bend my portfolio so badly if it was to go there. But maybe it will, maybe it won't. But Ethereum, I think it's 23 billion right now, which is a tenth of Bitcoin. It could easily go to 10 or 20 billion. I'm sorry. It could easily go to 100 billion from here. It could easily go to 200 billion from here if Bitcoin's going to go to $1 trillion, which I'm sure it will. So there's a 5-10-fold in Ethereum. So if you were going to be aggressive about it, you would definitely have a big chunk of your crypto in Ethereum. Bitcoin, Ethereum can't really, that's about as safe as you get. Now, if you think you know your way around crypto, then the place to go with some of that money is into these DeFi projects, and they are absolutely insane. And I have to keep slapping myself to control my excitement, because they are so wildly off the dial that you can make the sort of money which is against God, and you really are walking on thin ice when you're starting to make 75% overnight on a coin. And I keep doing that, and I know that that's probably going to go on for quite some time, but it's an incredibly high risk game, and you really need to know what you're doing. You really need to know what you're doing and what with, before you go there. And it turns out there's not many people doing it, because a lot of people just cannot wrap their head around it. They can't get past Ethereum, let alone into all this DeFi stuff. And I've been dragging my people shouting and screaming into this and showing it to them and melting their brains, and they go, oh, I get it. Oh, wow. Takes me about 3 days of dragging them around all the amazing stuff. And then, it really is alien technology. But once you get it, then you just know how brilliant it is. But above all that is Ethereum. Without Ethereum, this stuff just can't exist, because it's the internal computer of Ethereum that makes this all possible. But other people, you can make your own Ethereum. You can get Ethereum and you can take the code and you can recompile it and call it, Clem Ethereum. And you can do the same thing, but people are not going to port their DeFi stuff easily over to any other chain. So like all brands, once you've got the name established, once you've got the ecosystem, once you've got the support, once you've got your burger bar on every corner, you have the market, and it's hard to start a competing hamburger restaurant at scale to actually compete. So Ethereum is going to be miles ahead of everybody else until further notice, and will probably never ever lose its position unless a meteorite from outer space hits Vitaly Buterin. So it's the place to be. They're the top two, and unless you know your way around those two, there's no other reason to go anywhere else. The only other one that makes me itchy is Monero, because that is the one that is kind of off-piste. If I was if I was a Russian oligarch and I had the KGB looking down my neck, I would probably want some Monero, as well as my Bitcoin and my Ethereum, because that is the privacy coin. And all this stuff about Bitcoin, no, it's all anonymous. That's absolute tosh. If you broke into Coinbase and stole £1 billion of the Bitcoin, you'd find it incredibly difficult to actually get it out, because they just follow you everywhere you go. Because to get it into fiat, well, you need Coinbase to start with, right? It is by definition on the blockchain. Every time you move it, you can see where it's gone. And if you move it to an exchange, that exchange will freeze it and hand it back. So, that's an example of one would say people can't see who's done that. But, if the KGB wanted to know who it was, they would find out pretty quick. So it's got all the benefits of speed, anonymity, encryption, decentralization, and all that stuff. But it's not a privacy coin. And there is a need and a desire for privacy coins, and Monero is the one. So I think, and I don't have any Monero. I did, but I sold it all for the Bitcoin because I thought, it's going to blow. And this is about a year ago, I think, when I actually flipped out of that. So I actually concertinaed my portfolio, which is absolutely the wrong thing to do in equities. Concertinaed it down into just Bitcoin. And then in about August, I went, Ethereum is going to rip. And I was looking at the data behind Ethereum at the time, and the cost of doing a transaction on Ethereum was going up and up and up. And I wrote a piece for Forbes that said, Ethereum's going to the moon. I don't know what Ethereum, I thought about $250, maybe $150 at the time. And it was obvious that something was going on with Ethereum from the amount of transactions, and the cost of transactions had gone out of whack. I had gone up, which was only the beginning, actually. They actually spiraled out of control pretty soon thereafter. But I went, no, I can't just not have any of that. So I dived off the high diving board, did a reverse axle and a split, and took a lot of Ethereum on board, and which has not been the worst thing in the world to do. But now I'm just sat there for the ride, because we're now through 20,000, probably 21 by the time I log off this, but it was 20,000 this morning. It's now 20,700. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking at 27, 28 by Christmas. Anyway, that's a famous last words thing to say, of course. But we have now, it looks like we've gone through the roof of the so-called resistance. But what's happened with it, it's made it step up, it consolidated, so the volatility shrunk down, it repriced, reached its stability, and the next repricing event is underway. So it will reprice up to the next level of stability, which I think is about 28,000. But, hopefully it is, because I tell you, the top is when it just goes vertical and just keeps going, and you look at it, it's gone up $27,000 today. That will be it for Bitcoin for quite some time, when that occurs. Whether that occurs at 28,000 or 48,000 or 78,000, that will be when I'll be saying goodbye, is when it just goes up too much and it's going vertical every day, 2 or 3 days, just incredible jumps. That will be the end of it. And anybody that studies the way that markets like this behave will know, will have a natural gut reaction. And I mean, the end of their gut will start reacting, and that will be the time to say goodbye. But I think there's a fairly big run to come yet.
Thanks for watching. If you like the content, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.